So, 2024 is almost upon us. What science fiction delights await? I've been having a scan through, rubbing my science fiction crystal ball, reading the runes, peering at the goat entrails. I've picked out 10 science fiction books that I'm personally most looking forward to reading. In no particular order, let's go. If you're not familiar with Adam Roberts, he's a British science fiction writer with around 20 books behind him. Unusually these days, his books are all singletons or standalones that aren't part of a series. It seems almost quaint these days, old-fashioned even, and very much to be encouraged, I think. His most recent books are Purgatory Mount, which I've read, and The This, which I haven't, but I gather is very good. His next book, The cheerful-sounding Lake of Darkness, is out in the middle of next year. On the back of the book, it apparently will say, good is a construct, evil is a virus. The starship Nero and the starship Oubliette were in orbit around a black hole one afternoon. By the end of the day, crews of both starships are dead, victims of a single killer, Captain Alpha Rain. Rain claims that he's acting under the command of a voice emanating from the black hole, Mr. Modo. No one believes him. Everyone knows that things go into black holes, but nothing comes out. But something inexplicable has been happening to Rain, and whatever it is seems to be spreading. A historian studying serial killers from the 21st century interviews him and then nearly kills someone herself. And it becomes increasingly undeniable that there's something inside that black hole, and it's found a way out. That sounds dark, doesn't it? It has more than a whiff of Event Horizon about it, doesn't it? Do you remember the movie from the mid-90s? I like the sound of it, and I'm wondering how much of the book is about the killing of the crews, and how much of it is in the aftermath. From the little information available on the book, it seems like it will be more of the latter than the former. So what's next? Riding high off the back of the success of The Expanse, they're back. This time with The Mercy of Gods, the first book in a new trilogy called The Captives' War. So this is nothing to do with The Expanse. It's a new setting with new characters and a new plot. I really enjoyed The Expanse, so I'm keen to see what this one's all about. On the back of the book, it will apparently say, how humanity came to the planet called Anjin is lost in the fog of history, but that history is about to end. So this sounds like it's like a future colonized, humans have colonized this world some time ago, and now it's going to go to Ratchet. Let's find out why. Yes, but that history is about to end. The Carracks, part Empire, part Hive, have waged wars of conquest for centuries, destroying or enslaving species across the galaxy. And now they are facing a great and deathless enemy, and it's not us, by the way. The key to their survival may rest with the humans of Anjin. Caught up in academic intrigue and affairs of the heart, David Alcoy is pleased just to be an assistant to a brilliant scientist and his celebrated research team. And then the Carracks ships descend, decimating the human population and taking the best and the brightest of Anjin society away to serve on the Carracks' homeworld, and David is swept along with them. So it sounds like they've kind of just done a smash and grab and grabbed the smart people, presumably to help them with their impending doom. They're dropped in the middle of a struggle that they barely understand, set in competition against the other captive species, so humanity's not the only one in this gig, set in a competition against the other captive species with extinction as the price of failure. Only Daffyd and a handful of his companions see past the Darwinian contest to the deeper game that they must play to survive, learning to understand and manipulate the Carracks themselves. With a noble but suicidal human rebellion on one hand and strange and murderous enemies on the other, the team pays a terrible price to become the trusted servants of the new rulers. David Alcoy is a simple man swept up in events that are beyond his control and more vast than his imagination. He will become the champion of humanity and its betrayer, the most hated man in history and the guardian of his people. This is where his story begins. So one of the writing duo has described it as the love child of Frank Herbert and Ursula Le Guin. So I'm not sure where that leaves us. Hopefully it involves rich world building. And I understand that underneath the outer layer of science fiction is a retelling of the Book of David from your Old Testament. Maybe I'm not as up to speed on that as a good Catholic boy should be, but if I remember rightly, that involved Babylon and exiled Jews and plenty of mayhem. So I don't know how that's going to pan out in a science fiction retelling. We'll see. Like I said, I enjoyed The Expanse, but it's a relief of sorts to know that it will be a trilogy, not requiring a commitment to a 9-volume monster like The Expanse. How much do you want to bet that it's already been optioned for a TV adaptation? I think it probably has. I'm all in. I'm looking forward to it. Next up is Machine Vendetta from Alastair Reynolds, and I've been waiting for this book for years. Elysium Fire, the previous instalment, was out in 2000 what, 18? So it's been a long 6-year wait. But we need wait no more. This book is out in January, in just a few weeks' time. Machine Vendetta is the third and final, for now anyway, book in the Prefect Dreyfus series. And it's also the final book in Alastair Reynolds' 10-book contract with Gollancz, and will be the last visit to the Revelation Space universe. Probably. If you're familiar with the Revelation Space novels but haven't gotten around to the Prefect series yet, then you'll recognise the setting. We're in the Glitter Band, the ring of orbital habitats surrounding Yellowstone. In the Revelation Space books, the Glitter Band has been infected with the melding plague and is essentially an orbiting horror story. But the Prefect books are set in the Glitter Band's past, in its heyday, hundreds of years before, home to millions in an open democracy where every minor detail of government is put to a popular vote via a referendum. So it tells us that Machine Vendetta is a thrilling tale of deadly conspiracies and old enemies that refuse to die. Panoply is a small, efficient police force dedicated to maintaining the rule of democracy among the 10,000 disparate city-states orbiting the planet Yellowstone. Ingvar Tench was one of Panoply's most experienced operatives. So, why did she walk alone and unarmed into a habitat with a vicious grudge against her organisation? As his colleagues pick up the pieces following her death, Prefect Tom Dreyfus must face his conscience. 4 years ago, when an investigation linked to one of his most dangerous adversaries got a little too personal, Dreyfus arranged for Tench to continue the inquiry by proxy. In using her, did Dreyfus put her in the line of fire? And what does Tench's attack tell him about an enemy he'd hoped was dormant? With his big contract fulfilled, Reynolds says that it's his intention to write only standalone books, or singletons, for at least the next few years. I didn't like versions very much on its first read, so I hope that he ups his game. I will always grab whatever he writes, so I'm looking forward to this final instalment of the Prefect books and then whatever comes next. Fresh off his best-selling Octopus tale, Nayler is back in January 2024, this time with woolly mammoths. When you bring back a long-extinct species, there's more to success than the DNA. Moscow has resurrected the mammoth, but someone must teach them how to be mammoths, or they're doomed to die out again. Dr. Demira Kazmitulina, an expert in elephant behaviour, was brutally murdered trying to defend the world's last elephants from the brutal ivory trade. And now her digitised consciousness has been downloaded into the mind of a mammoth. As the herd's new matriarch, can Demira help fend off poachers long enough for the species to take hold? Or will her own ghost, and Moscow's real reason for bringing the mammoths back, doom them to a new extinction? This is apparently a tense SF thriller from a new master of the genre. So that sounds exciting. Although Tusks of Extinction is a slender book, it's under 200 pages, which I suppose by today's standards would be classed a novella. Back in the day it would have just been a book. I enjoyed Ray's first outing, The Mountain in the Sea, so I'll certainly be picking this up when it comes out next month. You might know Jack Campbell. He's best known for his Lost Fleet books and the various spin-offs of those, of which there are many. They're military science fiction, and I've read the first 4 or 5 of them and I've enjoyed them a lot, so I'm keen to see what this new series is about. In Our Stars, which is the first book, is out in May next year, and it's the first of a Doomed Earth saga, which is another one that sounds really cheerful. So let's see what it says. Genetically engineered with partly alien DNA, Lieutenant Celine Genji is different from ordinary humans, and they hate her for it. Still, she spent her life trying to overcome society's prejudice by serving in the United Fleet while Earth's international order collapses into war around her. Genji is stationed on a ship in orbit when humanity's factional extremism on the planet reaches a boiling point, and she witnesses the utter annihilation of Earth. The massive forces unleashed by Earth's death warp space and time to hurl her 40 years into the past. Meanwhile, the semi-disgraced naval officer Cale Owen is sent from the Earth Guard ship Vigilant to investigate, and he finds one person alive, Genji, a person who his superiors say is not human due to her partly alien DNA. But that's not how Cale Owen sees it. He thinks Lieutenant Genji of the near-future Unified Fleet, the future successor of Earthguard, is every bit a person, and more, the knowledge that she brings from the future might hold the key to saving Earth from destruction. Owen, Genji and everything that they know is deeply threatening to a lot of people, and the two of them need to survive each day to get to the next and save the future for everyone. But will changing Earth's future erase Genji? So from the sound of it, it seems like there's going to be some love interest between those two. And I'm not sure how many books are in this series, but it is described as a saga, which implies many, and that would certainly be consistent with his previous form. So we'll see. It sounds good. Hannu Rajaniemi is the author of the Jean de Flambert trilogy, which began with The Quantum Thief. His writing is supposedly not for the faint-hearted. It's kind of chewy, maybe even a bit indigestible, but it rewards the patient reader with a robust stomach. He has a new book out in 2024. I think it's in May, but I'm not 100% sure. And the new book is called Darkome. So let's see what it's about. Biotech has arrived. It could pave the way to a greater future for humanity. It could also tear the human race apart. Before the bioterror attack, Darkome was a place where DIY genetics enthusiasts could communicate in peace. After the attack, they were pushed deep underground by a brutal government response. The perpetrators are on Darkome though, and the biohacker community is simply too dangerous to be allowed to exist. Unfortunately, that community is the very thing David Adler needs. His daughter, Inara, is dying, and through Darkome, he might just be able to save her. The only problem is that the bioterrorists are still out there, and they are by no means finished. David's quest to save his daughter may put him right in their path. It sounds pretty, a little bit cyberpunk, a little bit biopunk. I'm looking forward to reading that. It sounds great. The incredibly prolific Adrian Tchaikovsky has not one but 2 books out in 2024. Alien Clay is the first one, and that hits the shelves in March 2024, at least here in the UK. I assume it will be similar in the US. And it's a thrilling, far future adventure, according to the publisher. Well, they would say that, wouldn't they? But let's see what it's about. The planet of Kiln is where the tyrannical mandate keeps its prison colony, and for inmates, the journey there is always a one-way trip. One such prisoner is Professor Arton Dagdev, a xeno-ecologist and a political dissident. Soon after his arrival, he discovers that Kiln has a secret, and humanity is not the first intelligent life to set foot there. In the midst of a ravenous, chaotic ecosystem are the ruins of a civilization. But who were the vanished builders, and where did they go? If he can survive both the harsh rule of the camp commandant and the alien horrors of the world around him, then Arton has a chance of making a discovery that might just transform not only Kiln, but distant Earth as well. So it seems like this is a kind of an alien relic kind of thing. My first reaction is, didn't he do that in the Final Architecture books? Maybe he felt like he didn't develop that enough. I suppose the good news is that it seems like this book is a one-off rather than part of a trilogy or a longer series. I do find Tchaikovsky to be a bit hit and miss. His best is extremely good, but sometimes his books have been a bit disappointing. I'll still buy everything that he writes. I'm willing to take the bet that this might be at the excellent end of the spectrum. So his second book of the year, Service Model, is out in the middle of the year in June 2024. And on the back of the book it will apparently say, Murderbot meets Red Shirts in a delightfully humorous tale of robotic murder from the Hugo-nominated author of Elder Race and the Children of Time. To fix the world, they must first break it further. Humanity is a dying breed, utterly reliant on artificial labour and service. When a domesticated robot gets a nasty little idea downloaded into its core programming, they murder their owner. The robot discovers that they can also do something else they never did before. They can run away. Fleeing the household, they enter a wider world that they never knew existed, where the age-old hierarchy of humans at the top is disintegrating into ruins, and an entire robot ecosystem devoted to human well-being is having to find a new purpose. Sometimes all it takes is a nudge to overcome the limits of your programming. Is Adrian jumping on the Murderbot bandwagon? I mean, why not? It's extremely popular, and I imagine we'll see quite a few of its like. To me, it sounds more like a cybernetic breeding program took Murderbot and crossed it with C-3PO. I'm anticipating plenty of fish out of water scenarios where the unfailingly polite C-3PO alike encounters strange situations and occasionally visits extreme violence on those who cross his path, for which he then apologises profusely. Oh, I say, I'm really most terribly sorry. I don't know what came over me. I need to have an oil bath. I don't know. I'll give it a bash. I don't usually do funny science fiction, but I did enjoy the first Murderbot book, so we'll see. I've left the best till last. There are 2 books that I'm looking forward to more than anything else in 2024. The first is an alleged, rumoured even, new book by Neal Stephenson. There's another author that can be a bit hit and miss, but he occupies 2 slots on my all-time top 10 with Anathema and Seven Eves. Seven Eves was such a great book. Wouldn't it be excellent if there was a sequel? Well, what's this? I'm not 100% sure of the title, but I think it's Polostan, out in September 2024, allegedly. And it seems like it will be the first of a trilogy with which I see the name Bomblight associated, so it would be the Bomblight trilogy. Also, being Stephenson, I'm expecting a fat book, or 3 fat books in fact. I wasn't able to find out much about it, but here's what I have. There's some blurb that you might recognise. What would happen if the world were ending? A catastrophic event renders the Earth a ticking time bomb. In a feverish race against the inevitable, nations around the globe band together to devise an ambitious plan to ensure the survival of humanity far beyond our atmosphere in outer space. But the complexities and unpredictability of human nature, coupled with unforeseen challenges and dangers, threaten the intrepid pioneers until only a handful of survivors remain. 5,000 years later, their progeny, 7 distinct races, now 3 billion strong, embark on yet another audacious journey into the unknown, to an alien world utterly transformed by cataclysm and time. Earth. Well, so far so familiar. That's a description of 7 Eves. So this entire thing may be a complete mirage and amount to nothing at all. But I really hope not. There was certainly plenty of scope for follow-on material. There's the 5,000 year gap between the 2 parts of 7 Eves. There's plenty of space in there for 3 fat books. Or it could cover the survival story of the groups that were left behind on Earth, the miners and the submariners. That story was largely untold in 7 Eves. It was hinted at, but wasn't really fleshed out. Or it could be a continuation, a direct follow-on, picking up where 7 Eves left off. Or, and this is very possible, it could be that there is a Stephenson book on the way, but the rumour mill is wrong and it's nothing to do with 7 Eves at all. And that would be a shame. I do expect that there'll be more information will appear during the year, which will either excite or disappoint. Fingers crossed. Another book that I'm keenly anticipating and which I'm 100% certain is real, is an unexpected 3rd book in what is now the badly named Semiosis Duology by Sue Burke, which is out in May or possibly October. I've seen both dates. I think it's more likely to be October from what I hear, because I know that she only recently turned the book into her editor, so it normally would take a year to go through that process. So October sounds more realistic. This is another book that I've not been able to find out a great deal about. I can't even find a short passage describing the book, but it will be called Usurpation. That is the title. If you're not familiar with the first 2 books, then they take place on Pax, a beautiful world with a small human colony trying to establish a foothold. The local wildlife, both flora and fauna, has other ideas and they struggle to survive at first. There's an abandoned town nearby, the ruins of a previous colony left behind by the glassmakers, the name given to them by the human colonists. And in that town is a rainbow bamboo, a sentient plant which the humans come to know and trust, who's able to extrude helpful chemicals, vitamins and even antibiotics for the colonists, in return for them educating it about science, mathematics and the nature of the universe. Second book, Interference, is set sometime later on Pax, where the colonists are more well established and beginning to range further in their exploration of the planet. New threats are discovered which Stephenson helps them to overcome, seeing that his best chance of survival and development is now with his friends, the humans. Stephenson is the rainbow bamboo. Interference ends with some of the rainbow bamboo, an offshoot of Stephenson, being sent to Earth with the instruction to protect and dominate the humans. But how? The 3rd book tells this story, apparently. I wonder how enthusiastically the offshoot applies itself to the dominate part. I enjoyed the interactions between Stephenson and the colonists on Pax. And I think the interactions on Earth could be quite different. I'm imagining power plays, politics, factions vying for control, and Stephenson Jr. trying to save humanity from itself. Or it could be a tale of plant versus plant, Pax flora versus Earth. But what do I know? There are some clues in the epilogue of the 2nd book, and we have the definition of the title. Usurpation is the act of taking control of something without having the right to, especially of a position of power. So it sounds like Stephenson's offshoot, Levanta, is going to be taking over, all with the best of intentions, of course. So there isn't, as I say, there isn't much information out there, so we'll just have to wait and see. I did have a brief email exchange with Sue Burke the other day, and she didn't really say much more than I've just said to you about the book, but we did talk about the possibility of her coming on the channel nearer the time before publication, so that'd be really exciting. I'd love to have a chat with her and find out a bit more about this story if we can. So those are my 10 most anticipated science fiction books of 2024. Do you like the sound of any of them? Are you looking forward to something else, some different science fiction books? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you as always. Thank you for watching, and until next time, bye for now.